Turn up the thermostat and heat fills the room in minutes. Pull on a jacket, the wind stops mattering. Open the fridge, and a week of food sits there, untouched, no matter how cold it gets outside. Now strip all of that away. Bare skin, no walls, a winter that could kill overnight. That was daily life for over 2 million years. Not one brutal winter, thousands of them back to back. Ice ages buried Europe and Asia under ice a mile thick. And somehow, people made it through. Every ancestor you have survived enough winters to raise children. So how did a hairless primate from the African savanna outlast this? That's the story worth telling. And most people have no idea how close it came to failing. Let's be honest about what they were actually facing. The worst of the last ice age hit around 20,000 years ago. Ice sheets covered Canada, Scandinavia, and northern Europe. Beyond the ice, the land turned into open wind-hammered steppe. Almost no trees, almost no shelter. Temperatures there regularly dropped past -30°C. Humans showed up to that fight with nothing built in. No fur coat like a mammoth, no blubber layer like a seal, no hibernation switch like a cave bear. Strip a person naked in that cold and death arrives in hours. Every animal on that steppe came pre-equipped for the cold. Reindeer migrated hundreds of miles to warmer ground. Humans carried none of that hardware. What they carried instead was a brain built to plan ahead and hands built to make the tools biology forgot to give them. And then it started with fire. Controlled fire use goes back roughly 400,000 years. By the Ice Age, people had it fully mastered. Ice Age camps in what's now Ukraine had engineered fire pits, stone linings, careful ash management, real engineering. Some burned hotter than 600 degrees Celsius. When timber ran out, people burned bone and rendered fat instead. Fire meant heat through the night, cooked meat that delivered more calories, hardened wooden spear tips, and extra hours of light on days with barely 8 hours of sun. But fire only works standing still. Walking, hunting, hauling wood, all meant carrying warmth on your own body. Cut marks on cave bear paw bones tell the story, found in northern Europe, dated to roughly 300,000 years ago. Precise cuts made right where you'd slice to pull a pelt off whole. Loose hides thrown over shoulders block wind but leak heat at every seam. The fix arrived around 40,000 years ago. The eyed needle, a sliver of bone with a hole drilled through it. Needles from Denisova Cave in Siberia date back roughly 50,000 years. A needle turns a blanket into a fitted garment, sleeves closed at the wrists, hoods sewn tight, layers that trap air instead of losing it. Tailored clothing may have given early modern humans a real edge. Reindeer hide became mittens and waterproof boots. Before heading into open wind, hunters rubbed rendered fat across their skin, sealing pores, cutting heat loss. Out on blinding snowfields there was another danger, snow blindness. So hunters carved narrow slits into bone and tied them over their eyes. Sunglasses made of bone, long before glass ever existed. Forget the deep cave everyone pictures. On the open steppe of Ukraine, there were no caves to hide in, and almost no wood to build with. So people built with what covered the ground, mammoth bones. At Mazirich, archaeologists found round dwellings built almost entirely from them. Over 149 bones in a single structure, skulls and leg bones formed the foundation, tusks curved upward to frame the roof, packed with hides, moss, and soil for insulation. The largest one dates to roughly 15,000 years ago, used again and again across generations. The design held real thinking. A doorway dug lower than the sleeping floor. Cold air sinks, so it pooled by the entrance, while warm air stayed trapped above where people slept. Nobody wrote down the physics. People just built it that way. Piled snow worked as insulation too. A thick snow wall can hold the inside near freezing, even when outside air drops past -30. The same idea behind the igloo, long before anyone built one. Building inside a stand of trees helped as well. A cluster of trunks blocks whined far better than open ground. Gaps got packed with moss, clay, and pine resin. Staying warm keeps you alive for one night. Winter's real threat is slower, hunger. Months with almost nothing left to gather or hunt. So people stopped eating everything they killed. A successful hunt got split into portions, dried into strips over smoke, or simply left to freeze in the open cold air. a natural deep freezer that needed no power source. Food went into pits dug below the frost line, where the earth held a steady, safe temperature. Hunters in Siberia even weighted meat down in cold ponds to keep it preserved even longer. Almost nothing from a kill went to waste. Marrow, hide, sinew, fat, all of it used, a level of efficiency hard to picture today. Hunting itself got organized around this need to stockpile. Near Solutré in eastern France, hunters used a limestone cliff to drive entire herds of wild horses into a natural trap, repeating the same strategy at the same site for tens of thousands of years. Kill in volume, preserve everything, and winter becomes survivable. Here's a detail worth sitting with. These people expected winter every single year. Their whole calendar revolved around getting ready for it. Modern life gets caught off guard by one bad storm. Ice Age communities were never caught off guard. Numbers helped too. Far more people crowded into a single shelter than we'd tolerate today. And that crowding was deliberate. Body heat adds up fast in an enclosed space. Living alone in deep winter meant losing that shared warmth. Isolated people, especially the elderly, died first when cold snaps hit hardest. Life in these conditions carried real desperation too. Gough's Cave in England, dated to roughly 14,700 years ago, shows cut marks on human bones consistent with cannibalism during periods when food ran out completely. Later, medieval farmers in Europe and Russia used animals for heat. Cattle and sheep brought into the ground floor in winter. Animal body heat rose and warmed the family sleeping above. A cow, functioning as a furnace. Some populations adapted at the level of the body itself. The Yagan people, at the southern tip of South America, wore almost no clothing despite near-freezing temperatures. Studies found their resting metabolic rate ran higher than ours, generating extra heat from the inside rather than trapping it from outside. They also rested in a tight squatting position, pulling arms and legs close to cut exposed surface area. Then there's the strangest theory in the whole story. At Cima de los Huesos, the pit of bones, in northern Spain, researchers examined remains dating back roughly 430,000 years. The bones showed unusual seasonal patterns of growth arrest, cyclical damage matching periods of extreme nutritional stress. In 2020, paleontologist Juan Luis Arzuaga's team proposed something wild, that these populations may have slowed their metabolism to survive, a hibernation-like state to get through winters without enough fat. The idea remains contested. Other researchers point to vitamin D deficiency or seasonal disease instead. Nobody claims modern humans could pull off true hibernation, but serious researchers are still debating it, which says something about how far our ancestors' bodies were pushed. For most of human history, reaching spring was never guaranteed. Every winter functioned as a test, and failing that test meant dying. In roughly 10,000 years, barely a blink on this timeline, we went from packing mammoth bones into a wall to adjusting a thermostat without leaving the couch. The threat that shaped nearly every part of early human behavior now shows up as a mild complaint on the walk to a warm car. We won that fight so completely, most people forgot it was ever fought.